Okay, so there's a little detail from the previous one that I didn't narrate, which is quite interesting, but it's not really central. And the point is that this chap, Ottavio Pozzi, the sort of security guard in the artwork, who had been forced by the Camorra to facilitate the theft, he was at the actual theft. He couldn't take it himself because he would be seen by the Swiss guards carrying the picture out of the Vatican. So he couldn't steal it, right? So what happened was the Camorra arranged for a visitor to the Pope. How could they do that? Because there was some corruption in the Vatican as well. And this visitor to the Pope was called Father Spada, a Catholic priest who'd been working with poor people in Mali. And he'd somehow, because the Pope was sympathetic towards the world's poor, he managed to arrange a brief visit to the Pope to give him a gift. What was that gift? It was an artwork. So Father Spada was able to carry another artwork, not a valuable one, through the gates into the Vatican, and actually went under the supervision of Keegan, the chief administrator. He was shown in to see the Pope for about 10 minutes, gave him this gift, and then instead of going out of the Vatican, he hung around, made contact with Pozzi, the art guard, the low-level art guard, and was given the special painting, the one that was almost certainly Leonardo, and he put it in the same bag that he bought the gift for the Pope in, and then he left via the same gate to the Vatican that he went in. The same Swiss guards could observe him. And that's how the painting got out. And this Father Spada was actually not really a genuine priest. This was all a setup by the Camorra, who are this very, very skilled criminal gang. Okay, so that seals that bit. So where were we? So we'd found that Montefiore is deceased, and Penny is deceased, and the painting is stolen from the Vatican. But now what? The Camorra are almost certainly in possession of it, but where is it? So the period of time went by while Gabriel worked on something else, and it looked like it was going to be, a cold case. Maybe, but they knew that maybe if this was real, if it was, as they thought, a real Leonardo, it would eventually turn up somewhere. Now here's another fascinating part of the story, which goes through the whole book, which on first reading, most people don't quite get. Once Gabriel knew it was stolen, he was talking to the police and his various contacts, and said, you know what, if I, Gabriel, had stolen that painting from the Vatican, the first thing I'd do would be to change the panel. The panel's the back of the painting, and put a new panel over it. And for almost a year, I never understood why. Why would he do that? Can you tell? Okay, I just figured it out. The answer is that the Vatican has detailed records of every single artwork, not only the painting on the front, but also the panel on the back. And the back of these panels, which Leonardo always used walnut panel. That was a walnut panel with the other painting on top of it, but the panel was walnut. The back, these panels develop distinctive little marks and stains as a result of the restoration work that gets done. So if somebody somewhere in the world tried to present this Leonardo if it was, when it's renovated, to the public for sale, and experts came to look at it, they would be able to identify the walnut panel as precisely the one that was in the Vatican, and so it would be revealed that it was stolen from the Vatican. So, has to have a new panel on it. Okay, so then what happens? So there's this period of silence, and then Gabrielle finishes work on a Titian, a renovation that he's doing for the Vatican. And when he's finished, various art experts travel to the Vatican to view this renovated Titian. And that includes the number one chap in the art world, Julian Isherwood from London, the gallery in St. James. He travels to the exhibition of this Titian, along with various other art experts. And so he's in Venice looking at the thing, and he arranges, of course, to see Gabrielle, because they're old buddies. They've done lots of things together. In fact, as a little side point, Julian Isherwood is actually very involved with the Israeli intelligence service, because his ancestors perished in the Holocaust, and so he had helped Gabrielle with a lot of clandestine agency work on behalf of the Mossad and so on. Okay, so Julian, who's a Brit, agreed to meet Gabrielle, and they meet in a bar, and he tells Julian that his administrator of his company, Julian Isherwood, is a lady called Sarah Bancroft, had recently heard from somebody in a gallery in Amsterdam, a chap called Peter van der Velde, to say that Peter van der Velde had come across in an Amsterdam market a rather interesting artwork. And Peter van der Velde asked Julian to come and have a look at it. And perhaps rather imprudently, Peter van der Velde told Julian that it was basically a picture of a woman. Right? Okay, so now Julian is telling all that to Gabrielle, and one has to realize, as I did after a long time, that Peter van der Velde never found that in an Amsterdam art market. He's told Julian's boss, Julian's administrator, that he'd paid 5,000 euros in an Amsterdam market for this painting of a woman. And that was something that confused me for a long time, but it transpired that that was a lie. He didn't. What happened was that Peter van der Velde is also a crook with contacts with the Camorra, and the Camorra had passed it on to him once they had possession of this painting, which had, remember, Raphael on the front, Leonardo underneath, and a walnut panel. Gave it to Peter van der Velde's gallery, and Peter van der Velde's restorers did exactly what Gabrielle said. They put an oak panel on the back with cross pieces, and they proceeded to remove the non-valuable Raphael copy and start to work on renovating the underlying picture, which was indeed the Leonardo da Vinci, and it was they could tell it was Leonardo da Vinci because it was exactly like the sketch of this painting that Leonardo had already made famous. Okay, so when Gabriel heard that it was a picture of a woman, what did he do next? Of course, he this is my understanding, I'll correct it later in a later video if I got it wrong. He thought, how am I going to find out about this painting at Peter van der Velde's gallery? And at that point, he decided to not go directly, but instead to go to Denmark, where he has another colleague, a lady who's a brilliant thief and a brilliant hacker. He wanted to hack into the business, the Van der Velde business, and find out what's going on. And in so doing, now correct this if I'm wrong, in so doing, she did that and found that the painting had been transferred. This is how he found the painting had been transferred out of Amsterdam to Switzerland, to SBL Bank in Lugano in Switzerland, which was known to be a little bit linked to the Camorra. And she hacked the bank in Switzerland. It took a while. She hacked it, and she was able to obtain perfect photographic images, which the bank had taken of this painting to get insurance and everything. So the bank had the painting in the vault, but had all these photos of it. And now Gabrielle was able to see these detailed digital photos of the painting and know that it was stored in the Lugano. Okay, so I'll stop it there because there's a very interesting part now where Julian ends up being invited. That's what happened, yeah. Julian, because he's the expert, was invited by Peter van der Velde to Amsterdam to look at this painting. And then, but instead of viewing it in Amsterdam, if I remember rightly, that's right. He went to Amsterdam to view it, but instead of viewing it at Peter van der Velde's place, he was taken in a vehicle, a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce or something, to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, where the SBL executive had flown out on his private jet with his staff to Schiphol with the picture, so that Julian could get on the plane. They put Julian on the plane took off, and in the flight, so there's complete security, Julian was shown this renovated Leonardo da Vinci. And that's when Julian saw it, he was furious because he did recognise that it was indeed a Leonardo. He didn't tell them that it was. He said he's not sure. He knew, but he felt strongly that it was, and it had been renovated not that great, like 70-80% or B+ sort of thing. So he was angry, and it also says that he detected a faint smell of rabbit glue. Now, I tell you, whoever reads this book and gets up to that point, I doubt if they could explain why he detected a faint smell of rabbit glue. But you know now, it's because Van der Velde's restoration in Amsterdam included what? Putting that new oak panel on the back and using the rabbit glue to stick it to it. Okay? So I know that if you've read this book, you never figured that out. So we'll carry on with the story later.